What are you doing? Days, this is not the time. Days, you've been asleep for the last... Brilliant. You want to stay there, do you? Okay. No, Days, don't lick that. So, I finished the race in 3 hours and 36 minutes, which is a huge PB for me. It was 11 and a half minute PB for me from Manchester for last year. Now, last year I set myself the target of doing 3:42 and I didn't get that. I got 3:47. 3:42 was originally the target for Newport, but the last couple of weeks building up to the race, I just felt a bit like I'd trained, I felt a bit more confident. So I thought, why not go for the 3:30 goal? And I'm glad I did, because had I not, I don't think I would have pushed myself to the 3:36 time that I eventually achieved. So I'm actually quite glad that I slightly changed my game plan on race day, which we'll talk about a bit later. So let's just get into it then, getting there. So getting to the actual event village was a piece of cake, really. I got dropped off by Laura about a mile away and I decided to walk in, just have a nice chilled, relaxed walk. Got there nice and early. I arrived at about 7:15. They hadn't even blown up the start and finish line. Basically, they were still getting everything set up, basically, by the time I arrived. But the good thing is about the start line is the university is almost like the hub for the race, and the university's open. And you can get yourself just sat down if it's wet outside or if it's cold, and you can just, just lay down. That's what I did. I got there nice and early. I found a quiet corner, sat on the floor, got all my gels ready, and then I packed my belt. I still stayed warm, still kept all my clothes on, my layers, my joggers and my hoodie and stuff, because I came race ready, but obviously I had other layers on top of that. And then eventually met a couple of people, had a chat to a few folks, and then, managed to get to bag drop for about 8:30, because the race started 9 o'clock. Went to the bag drop across the road, which is a car park, so literally like an NCP car park. It's very strange, but you walk in, you find your zone, according to your number, and you just chuck your bag in that little zone. So nice and easy. I made a bit of an error. I forgot to bring my soft flask with me, and I decided going into the race, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a soft flask with me so I could have that as a backup if the going got tough, and I forgot it. So I text my main man, Rich, the beautiful bearded Rich, and I said, mate, have you got a spare soft flask? And he said, yes. He brought it with him, and I borrowed his, which I was really grateful of, because it did come in handy later on in the race. Then got to the start line. I was with Sam Bauer and Rich, and we all made our way to our pens, which was fairly straightforward. You've just got to find your entrance to the pen. It's not the Great North Run or the London Marathon. If anything, it's a fairly small race, but the city centre was actually, a bustling metropolis, but literally a kilometre down the road, you wouldn't have even known there was a race on, support-wise, because everyone sort of congregated around the city centre, or 99% of people did. So the start itself was a nice, easy start. I was in the green wave, which I think was the first wave. I think obviously the elites are right up the front. And then I basically was in the middle. I found the 3:30 pacer, and just sort of set myself up around him, because obviously other people are going to be assembling themselves around the 3:30 pacer as well. So I thought that'd be a good thing to do. And my thinking was, if I can literally cross the line at the same time as the 3:30 pacer, whether I hold back or run ahead, I know if I see the 3:30 pacer at 26 mile or 25.5 mile, that the 3:30 might still be on. So I decided to go basically over the timing map with the 3:30 pacer, which I'm glad I did. Getting actually out, the human traffic wasn't too bad. The race wasn't that congested. Strangely, it actually got more congested later on, which I'll mention. But the start was fine, mainly because we're all going the same speed, we're all going the same pace. It was nice and easy, nice and straightforward. My strategy was 5-minute kilometers. Now, what I was thinking of doing was a negative split, which would have been 5-minute kilometers and then 4:57s. So it would have been a marginal negative split, but I forgot to take into consideration how much weaving and bobbing I'd have to do. And my GPS actually ran quite long. The course obviously is the course. You've got to trust that it's been officially measured. I'm just going to interrupt this video because it's future Andy here. And I was just about to release this video today, but I've just seen that Run for Wales and the Newport Marathon have just released a statement saying that the course has been officially measured 276 metres long. Now, that's quite a long way. And they've sort of acknowledged their error and they've made a statement. So I'll just quickly read through it. We've been looking into reports around the accuracy of the marathon course distance at the Newport Marathon Festival on Sunday, April 28th. The issue has been taken very seriously and we've been having an ongoing dialogue with the Course Measurer Association of UK Course Measurers, AUKCM. Unfortunately, the AUKCM has concluded that there was an error with their course measurement, resulting in the marathon being 276 metres long, which equates to 0.171 miles. Run for Wales is disappointed that this has happened at one of its events, and it understands and apologises unreservedly to those impacted, particularly those aiming for good for age qualifying times. For this reason, we have been working with London Marathon Events, who have agreed that times will be amended for all those people applying for a good for age entry at the TCS London Marathon, should the athlete have been affected in gaining a place. I know. An equivalent number of seconds will be removed from the finish times of those applying for good for age entry. For example, a 3-hour finish time would be corrected approximately by 70 seconds, 3.5-hour finish time would be corrected by 82, and a 4-hour finish time would be corrected by 94 seconds. This will be done automatically via the London Marathon system when applying. The AUKCM can confirm there were no issues with their half marathon or 10k course measurements. So there you go. We all felt like we knew it. We all had an inkling that it was long, especially as we finished and we looked at our Stravas. Because thinking about it, it wasn't like most races where you're running on an open dual carriageway and when you are weaving in and out, you're weaving across 2 lanes of traffic. For 80% of that run, we were on country lanes, which were probably a tractor's width wide. So bobbing and weaving was probably minimal now I think about it. So yeah, slightly miffed. And I'd be interested to know, anybody watching this, are you amending your PB? I feel for you massively if you were using Newport as a qualifier and you were close or very close to your goal time but missed out on it slightly. And I hope they do follow through with what they say and they do amend those times, those sort of finishing times. And because you know what big marathons are like now, if you miss it by a second, or they might even move the goalpost, might they? They might even say, no, we need to make it a minute quicker than what we said it was going to be. So yeah, I massively feel for all those people. But yeah, what a fudge up. So let me know if you were affected and if you're A, going to change it, and B, bothered about it. I still don't know how I feel about it. Anyway, back to the video. Running to pace can be at your peril sometimes. So my advice would be, if you're running Newport and it's exactly a carbon copy of last year, of this race you're watching now, then run 3 to 5 seconds faster, lap split or average pace, because I think I measured 600 meters longer or something like that. So yeah, my plan was to hold 5-minute Ks and maybe try and put my foot down second half. And what I did was actually let the 3:30 pacer go ahead of me, and in the hope that I could overtake him towards 24-25 mile. That would have been the fairy tale ending, but it didn't quite happen. So that was the strategy. The fuel and the water strategy was emergency water. Don't glug the water in my belt. I would just have on-course water, just swigs, a couple of swigs, and then chuck it. That's all it needs to be on a race, I think, because I've made the mistake sometimes where I've drunk too much water and I felt really bloated, and I've even been sick because I've drunk too much. So yeah, that's what it was. It was just a case of take in the on-course water, which I did at every water station, which I think were about every 5k to 4 mile, between 3 and 5 miles anyway, I can't quite remember, but there was a lot of water, and at some stations there even was energy drinks, which I think might have even been Lucozade as well, but I didn't touch them because I haven't trained with it, so it's probably not a good idea to start using. Well, as far as I think anyway, don't go near stuff you've never trained with, especially on race day. So fueling wise, I've been using my Voom bars and Voom bars only, and I had 8 gels worth in my back pocket. I ended up using 7.5, which is so many more than I've ever used in the past. I think Manchester I ended up using 3 just because of flavour fatigue, and then I just couldn't be bothered to reach in my pocket. And you know, I had no discipline when it came to gels last year, and that was one of the reasons of my demise in Manchester. So I was determined to make sure that I kept the fueling up, which I did. So I was quite pleased with that. The only one I didn't do was at 40k or 35. At 35k, I just couldn't have. It's 35 or 40. I can't remember which one. It must have been 40k. I knew I should have had one, but my mouth was just, it was so dry by now. I had no saliva, so I had a bite of my chew and I just couldn't get it down. And I knew it took me about 5 minutes to see it off. And I knew that having the other little square would have been a bad idea. I might have even choked on it, which I nearly did on some of the others. Because that is maybe one of the things about the Voom bars. They're not water-based, so when you've got no saliva or no enzymes or whatever it is that makes chewable things easily chewable, I just didn't have that towards the end of the race. My mouth was so dry. Clear indication that I was dehydrated, which I think I was, because the weather did actually get quite warm. And speaking of the weather, it was perfect running conditions. At the start, it was probably about 10 degrees, maybe 8, something like that. So nice and cool, but not too cold and not too warm. So it was probably perfect. Not windy, maybe a little bit breezy in sections. But as the race developed, the sun did come out, which in a couple of sections was fairly difficult. It did feel like an oven on a couple of areas, because it was quite exposed on some of the lanes that you take out in the countryside. So let's get into the 5k splits then. So I started off with a first 5k split of 25:05, delighted with that, bang on pace, didn't go out too fast. First k was 5:01, second 5:02, third 4:59, fourth 5 minutes, fifth 5:01, so I was really delighted with that. At 10k, got there at 50 minutes and 17, so slightly slower at 25:12. 15k, 1 hour 15:15, and that was a 24:58. Got to 20k, 1:40:16, and I think I got to halfway, I think I said in the video, at about 1:46. Again, delighted with that. The effort felt good, it felt easy, and I actually arrived at halfway thinking, yeah, I'm ready to go again. I've made it halfway. Feel my breathing was good. My heart rate was in the sort of early 160s, so nothing to be alarmed by. And I didn't run to heart rate. I massively ran to pace and feel. And I did sort of say to myself, if this feels too hard too early, you have to back off, because it's not really like Stitch. It's not something you can just run off. When you're feeling bad in a marathon, it very rarely feels easier. You very rarely run through it and think, oh, actually I feel all right again now. It doesn't really work like that. So I said that to myself, but fortunately that didn't happen. And I actually got to 25 and even 30k, 25k, got to 24:51, got to 30k, 24:46. So the fastest 5k split was between 25 and 30. Then at 35k, I couldn't believe it, still bang on pace. I was looking at my watch and it was 5 minutes a K. I did a 25:01 between 30 and 35. And at 35k, it's 2 hours, 54 minutes into the race. I'm feeling proud of myself for getting that far. I'm feeling that good. But then I got to 36k and I don't know what happened for 5 minutes and 19 seconds, but I looked at my watch, it beeped, and I wasn't happy with that lap split. I don't know why, I just sort of took my eye off the ball. I can't explain to you what happened. I think I was just in a marathon daydream. And if I'm being honest, I think things were starting to hurt by then, which is maybe why I wasn't concentrating. I wasn't focusing on pace. And then I remember looking at my watch thinking, it's gone now. The race is gone now, because I needed to start seeing 24:30s, 24:45s minimum if I wanted to get that 3:30 time goal. But I was okay with that. I just thought, let's just get as close to 3:30 as you can. And then 36, 5:19, 37, 5:08, 38, 5:17, 39, 5:27, and then lap 40, 5:17, gave me a 5k split between 35 and 40 of 26:30, which is not too shabby of a 5k split. So it was only a minute and 30 seconds over. So obviously I lost a bit of pace, but critically I hadn't blown up yet. I just slowed down. And one thing I'm really proud of myself for doing was not walking up until now, definitely, because I wanted to. Of course, my body was screaming at me to stop. But what I was really proud of myself of was running. I was running slightly slower than marathon pace. But what actually happened was I'd caught myself at a steady pace, which is what I'd been training largely using for my 16-week block. So I was running at around about average of about 5:30 a k, which is about 9-minute miles, something like that. But what I'm saying is, at Manchester, that went to 6 minutes, 6.5, 7-minute Ks, 11, 12-minute miles, which is what I wanted to avoid. And then at 40 and 41, I picked it back up. 42, I picked it back up. And got myself, my slowest, was 41, which was a 5:38 a k, which is around about a 9:09, that magic 4-hour pace. And that was my slowest k of the day, which I'm buzzing with. And then I got a 5:27.42, and then I finished, my last lap split was an average of 5:04. And I managed, I wouldn't say a final sprint, because you think you're sprinting at the end of a marathon, but you're not. Well, I wasn't. And I was probably doing about half marathon pace at best, but it felt like I was really having to put the effort in. It really felt like I was trying to go, but I was glad I did. And I just sort of said to myself, come on, let's just cross that line as quickly as we can. And I got over the line, and I looked at my watch, and I couldn't believe it began with a 3:30 something, because as I'd started to slow down from 36k onwards, I thought, right, we'll be lucky for that 3:42 now. We'll be lucky if we can beat that. But yeah, buzzing for a 3:36.31, and sorry, that's Strava. Official time is 3:36.28. So fueling went really well. The water, I was trying to keep myself hydrated through the week. Maybe I just didn't keep myself hydrated enough. Maybe it was the hot weather. It happens to us all. Running hard intensity for 3.5 hours, you're gonna be dehydrated. It's a really difficult thing to manage. I didn't want to take litres of water with me because I didn't want to be in discomfort carrying it for 3.5 hours. That's just my choice. If it was a trail race or an ultra, yes, I would. But because there's on-course water every 3 mile, that's enough for me. I think I can get in between those water stations and survive. And I did, but maybe the last 5 miles, maybe the dehydration did sort of slow me right down. But as I said, it didn't completely floor me, which I was mega pleased with. So I got myself over the finish line, and I was feeling great, chatting to loads of folk. Everybody wanted to know how I got on. You want to know how everyone else has got on. And one thing I didn't mention was my old crony Brett came down and surprised me on the start line, shouted me, and I was like, what are you doing here? Couldn't believe he travelled all the way down from the Midlands to watch the marathon. So yeah, big love, brother. Thanks for coming down. It really did mean a lot. And also seeing Laura and this little lady Daisy as well at mile 5 and then again at mile 25 was just, it means so much to you as a runner when you have your loved ones there. It just gives you a lift. And it just, I saw Laura and Daisy at 25 over the George Bridge, over the river, and I nearly cried. I was just so exhausted, so emotionally done. I just wanted it to be over, and I was sick of the effort. I was sick of putting effort in, and that's how I know that I left it all out there, because at 25 I was ready to call it. And but seeing them there just give me that last little push was just amazing. So massive thanks to Laura as well for just being amazing, for being my brilliant wife. And yeah, got over the finish line, spoke to a load of folk, and I didn't feel bad. And I thought, brilliant, I can't believe it. First marathon I've ever done and I've not been sick. 20 minutes later, I was sick. So we all went for a drink in a local pub, and I just couldn't lift my head. It was just like that for about an hour. I just couldn't get my head off the table. Same old story. It's just an adrenaline crash, dehydration I'm putting it down to. And yeah. Oh, another thing I didn't get, or not until the finish line sprint anyway, no cramping. So I think the electrolytes within the Voom bars really helped me. And I took a ratio of 3-to-1 electrolytes to caffeine. So I was taking, or maybe it was 2-to-1 actually, I think it was 2-to-1. I'd take 2 non-caffeine, and then I'd have a caffeine. So yeah, across the 7 or 8, I think I had probably 2 or 3 gels worth that were caffeines. Would I recommend the Newport Marathon? Well, as soon as I finished, I'd be like, yes. I remember thinking, this is brilliant, what a marathon this is. But now I've had 7 or 8 days to think about it. I don't know, because the 10K went off half an hour after us, but it's a looped course. So it's an out and back with 2 8.5-mile loops. And those loops just felt like purgatory, especially, 19, 20, 21 miles. It was tough. It really was. And not only that, and I'm not having a go at anyone, it's just a fact that I was running into the half marathoners on my second loop. And with tired legs, when you have to weave around people, it's just an extra bit of effort that you just could do without. It was flat. It was a joke. An actual joke how flat it was. I don't think there was there was a bit of elevation over the main bridge over the river, which is at like 3 miles and then 25 miles, or like 2 miles then 25 miles. That was it. Like there was hardly any, I think I measured 60 or 70 meters, maybe 80 meters elevation across the whole lot. So would I recommend it? Yes and no. Yes, if you're going there with the objective of getting a PB, because it's so flat. But no, if you buzz off atmospheres like, I don't know, London or the Great North Run or Manchester, then yeah, Newport, you'll just feel underwhelmed because there's not a lot of support there. And yeah, you might feel like the race is too small if you need that kind of a lift from the crowd and the energy of the city, because apart from the start and the end, there was just none. Well, there were little pockets of support, like a small local race, and that's pretty much how it felt. So it was a good race. Was it great? No. So for me, what's next? Well, I'm going on now to do some other distance chase to chance my arm at different distances, but I'll go again after summer because I've got Valencia on the 1st of December this year, which I'm mega excited for. So why not? Let's go. Let's push the boat out and let's go for a 3:20. Let's do it. Let's push out. I'm going to push myself, and hopefully in turn you might have a bit of belief in yourself, because I think I can do it. And I know that if I've got a big target to try and get close to, for me, I'd rather shoot for it and miss than hit an easy target. Like, I'm really glad I shot for 3:30 and missed it, rather than got 3:42 and came away with 3:41. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for 3:20 in Valencia, and we'll just see where we are at the back end of summer, because that's when we're going to start to train, probably around about July, August, something like that. But I'm so excited for Valencia. So what's next? So I've got the Birmingham Half Marathon, which will be coming out soon, which is an amazing race, which I really enjoyed. Funnily enough, which is only 7 days after the Newport Marathon. Should I be racing that? Spoiler alert, I did, because it was yesterday, and it was a really good race. And what else have we got? I've got the Two Castles 10K, which is a really fun local race, which goes from Warwick Castle to Kenilworth Castle. I will try my best to race that, which will be a 10K. In July, I've got a 100K race to the Stones, which I can't wait to do. That will be the furthest I've ever run in my life, and that's going to be a challenge like no other, I think. And I'm going to start a new series over the summer called Chasing 20, which is my quest for a sub 20 5K. So I'm going to be visiting some local park runs, some fast park runs, trying to chase that elusive 5K. So thanks so much for watching. The last note I've put down here is thank you for all of the support. You guys, I've mentioned this word before, but you give me a lift more than you will ever know. Your comments, the likes, the shares, the Instagrams, just shouting my name, the It's on Andy, the Mumbai bye-byes, anything, whether you listen to mine and Brett's podcast or whatever it is, it's so grateful. I'm so grateful for it. And, you know, it makes me happy. I love doing this because it just makes me feel good. I love the running, and I also love sharing the running side of it as well. So just a happy man, and you guys, you're making me happy. So thanks so much for watching this episode. The next one I've got coming out was the Marathon Weekend video of the trip in Newport when we stayed on the alpaca farm. And then we'll be going on to the Chasing 20 stuff, and then we've got some other stuff. So yeah, that's what's coming up next. Don't get your hopes up. I'm not selling merch. Brett made me this as like a little surprise. Get me to 10,000 subscribers and I'll consider merch. But until then, I'm going to happily wear this with my medal. So, see you guys in the next one. Take it easy wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you soon. Ta-da.
It's on